Hi guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create a cute pendant using my rounded U-turn cutters, since a lot of you have asked what you would do with them. So I'm going to show you today what I would do with them. So to start off with, we're going to be making 3 separate veneers, and I'm going to start off with the first one. So you're going to need a piece of white polymer clay rolled out on the thickest setting of your pasta machine, and your choice of silkscreen. I'm going with Helen Braille's, let's see, which one is this one? Night Wind. And I really like this one. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be representing the sky, the canopy, and the tree trunks in my project. So this is going to be representing the sky. But first what we want to do is we just want to make sure that our piece is nice and clean. So what we're going to do is we're just going to grab a wet wipe and some isopropyl alcohol. The higher the concentration, the easier it is to get your piece completely clean, because we've got a few marks on here. And this should remove pretty much all of that dirt. And this is a great way to clean your polymer clay. You don't want to spray it too often though, because that will dry out your polymer clay. So make sure you remove that alcohol as quickly and as thoroughly as possible. But there we are, you can see how beautiful and white that is. So now I'm just quickly going to grab that silkscreen. I really love the pattern on this one. It almost reminds me of sari ribbon in a way. And I'm just going to place that down and press pretty well. Okay, and my tile actually is a little wet, so I'm going to move this over to the side and quickly dry my tile. There we are. And now we're going to be using our paint. And now I got the silkscreen and these paints from Linda's Art Spot, so if you want to check that place out, there'll be a link in the description below. She has a bunch of different polymer clay supplies, and also some polymer clay brands that are really difficult to get hold of in the US, including Kato, Pardo, Cernit, and those are all the ones I can think of off the top of my head. I know she also has some Kato starter kits, and also Souffle at the moment. So check her out. Okay, so these are the Lumiere paints, and I'm starting off with pearlescent turquoise. Pop a bit on there, and you've got to give it a shake before you use it, otherwise the paint doesn't look quite right. And then I'm going to be using the Halo Blue Gold. It's a really pretty colour. Okay, there we go. Then just grab a card of your choice, any will work. And just scrape the paint across. And I'm kind of mixing the colours together as I am doing this. And it's not a bright blue, but that's fine. You can use any paint you want for this. Doesn't even need to be metallic. Now if I have any spots that I missed, I'll just quickly add a bit more of that blue. And then move that around. Like so. And we don't have to get the whole thing, I just want to get most of it. And then give a good scrape to get rid of any excess, like so. And then lift your silkscreen. And that is what we have. Looks really, really nice. And I did have a little bit of leakage, but that's okay. It's not too much of a problem, because we're going to be only using a small amount of this, so I'll probably pick out the pieces around here that I really like. So I'm going to go pop this into some water, clean it off before the paint dries, and this will dry in the meantime. Okay, now I'm just going to quickly lift this off the tile. And I'm just going to pop that off to the side to dry. Then quickly grab something to just give your tile a quick clean to get rid of any paint that might be around. And we will move on to the next step. And the next veneer we're going to be using is again going to be white polymer clay. And this one is white enough for me to not worry about cleaning it off. And then we're going to be using a stencil. You can use any stencil you want. I am choosing to use this really nice leaf stencil. Again, I'm going to just press that on there, and what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to actually give it a roll so that it gives it a mini texture and also embeds that stencil in there so that when we use our ink it won't bleed. Okay, and now you can use alcohol ink, you can use any ink you want. Today I'm going to be using this distress ink. And I've been playing around with it and it creates some interesting effects. But you can use any ink you want. Alcohol ink will also work really well. So just want you to grab that and dab it around. And this is, let's see, Lucky Clover. Okay, don't want to cover the whole thing. Then I have Mowed Lawn. And I want you to press fairly hard when you're doing this to get it through those lines in the stencil. Then I'm going to be using antique linen. And that will just soften up the colours a bit. Okay, and then lastly I'm just going to be using a few dabs of gathered twigs. Oops. So, okay. And then I'm probably going to go over with the Lucky Clover again. And I'm just kind of building up these colours. Yeah, it looks really nice when you kind of build them all up, instead of just kind of going at it all at once. And then finally with the antique linen, which softens everything up nicely. Then just go with your finger, and I want to smooth it over in one direction. And get into all of those spaces where we haven't had it before, so that we get one somewhat uniform colour to start with. So just really rub it in to make sure that you get all of those spots. Okay. Just give your finger a clean, and then we're going to go over again to give it a little bit more texture. But we needed to rub that over to just give it a uniform colour, because otherwise you're going to have a lot of white spots. Now we've got a uniform colour, we can go in and dab over to darken that colour a bit. Instead of dabbing this, I'm actually running it across. You can see it's darkened this up quite a bit. And just take that linen, and I've got a little bit there. Okay, and I'm pretty happy with that. Now what you want to do is you want to take some water, specifically water, and I am going to, actually no, not water, I'm going to be using isopropyl alcohol. You can use water as well, but the isopropyl alcohol dries quicker, so I like that better. So just spray that over the surface, and you'll see that it kind of, everything starts to kind of bleed together, and then just blow to get it dry. Okay, and that's pretty dry. Now I'm just going to take a dry tissue, and I'm just going to blot it. just to get rid of any excess ink we might have on there. And then I'm going to repeat the process a few times. I'm going to dab a bit more on here, and each time you're going to be layering those colours, and you're going to be deepening the colour as well, and you're just going to be creating a bit of effect each time. So I'll go over with the ink, because this is semi-transparent, and these inks oxidize when you kind of add that alcohol. So I'm just going to go over a few. This time I'll probably go over once more. I might go over twice, but I'm just going to go over until I'm happy with the effect. So I'm going to spray that again, just to show you what it looks like again. And then just let it sit, blow on it to get it to dry, and then dab away the excess once it's pretty dry. Okay. And so we're just going to lift this up. And you can see that we are going to have bleeding around the edges, but the center part looks really good. And you can clean this whenever you want, because this is water. It dissolves very easily with water. So you do need to be careful with this veneer, because it will very easily get messed up. So you don't want to be bringing any water or wet wipes or anything like that near it at the moment. You just want to leave this off to the side, and we will use it in a little while. You can see how really nice that looks. So I'll put that with our other veneer that we have. And lastly, we are going to move on to our kind of tree trunk veneer. So again, you're going to need some white polymer clay. Press that down. Okay, and we're going to be working with alcohol inks this time around. So I've got selection. I'm using caramel, sepia, ginger, and teak wood. So I'm going to start with the darkest one. So let me just bring over what I need here. Alright, so we're just going to need an alcohol ink dabber as well, and this one I also bought off of Linda's Art Spot. And I'm just going to be dabbing this along the edge like so. And then just kind of dabbing that around. Close that up. I'm going to move on to ginger. And I open my bottles away from the clay because you can get stuff all over the clay. Just run a line of that down as well. Dab that around at random. Close up that bottle. And I think I'm actually going to skip the sepia. I'm just going to be using caramel next. And just try to get any remaining areas. There we are. Now I'm going to just swap this for a clean one, like so, and I'm going to spray that with some 99% isopropyl alcohol. So I'm going to spray away from you, so you're not going to be able to see, but I'm going to spray it on here. And I'm just dabbing it off to the side here because I don't want too much on here. Just gonna dab, and then I'll spray a little bit more, and then dab again. And this will get this to start blooming. Okay, then I'm going to spray from maybe around half a meter away. I'm going to spray the isopropyl alcohol. There we are, hopefully you could see that. And I'm going to spray one more time in 3, 2, 1. Okay, Then I'm going to take a tissue, place it over the top, and that's just going to remove a good percentage of the ink so that it's not so dark. I don't want it to be as dark. Okay. Then I'm going to spray again, and we're going to start getting some blooms on there, so hopefully you can see that starting. Now I'm being very careful where I spray, so I get this really pretty effect. Okay, then I'm just going to open up that bottle like so, and I'm going to bring over a rubber tip tool. Dip that in. I'm going to place down some dots. Okay. And we've still got quite a bit of ink on here, so I'm just going to spray this one more time. And I'm just kind of, this is a very random process. I'm just kind of messing with it until I like it. I just want to remove some of that ink again. Like so. Okay, then I'm going to bring over my alcohol ink dabber again with the ink pad on it. And I'm just going to pop some more ink on there, but just add small dots throughout. Okay, so we're just putting a bit more of the ink on, but not across the whole board. Then I'm putting on my dabber that has the alcohol in it. Dab that across the surface. And I'm just going to grab a heat gun. This is optional if you are impatient like me. And I'm using it on the lowest setting so it's not going to cure my clay. And I'm just going to use it to dry. Then I will pick this up. You can see that. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a stretch. Okay. And then I'll bring over a piece of paper. And I'm just going to burnish this. And this is going to get rid of any tacky bits that we might have, because I don't want tacky alcohol ink on here because then it gets on everything. There you can see it removes everything, and it also removes the underlying layer, which can create a really interesting effect. Okay. And if you really like that, then you can actually go back, grab some more ink. Grab a little bit more ink, I think I need. Some over here, some here, and some there. Let it sit for a moment. Grab your paper again. And burnish really hard on here. And then I want you to rip it away. And that will leave these exposed areas, which looks really nice. Okay, so let's give that another try. Give it a real good burnish. And then rip. And I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's enough. I don't think I need to do it anymore. So that's our next veneer. That looks really cool. And I might go back and do it a little bit more, I'll think about it. But I think it looks really nice as it is. So those are our 3 veneers. So just clean up and we'll move on to the next step. And the final step is to create another little piece that is going to be suspended above our main pendant. So grab some white clay again, and you're going to want some sort of a focal piece. I'm going to be using this cute little birdie here. And excuse the fact that I have alcohol ink all over my fingers. And we want to put the birdie on a blue backing. So I'm going to be using these colours in the Pinata inks. And I'm going to be using my dabber again, but I'm going to be using that one that already has the 99% alcohol on there, because it's fairly clean, so you can use that one. Don't want to be using the brown one. So I'll just open both of those away from the clay. And then just dab it on in dots, like so. Okay. I'll just give this a quick spray of the alcohol. And then dot this around. And it's going to merge everything together really nicely. And I do have that little spot there that has brown on it, and I'm going to see if I can remove that. Just by kind of almost digging into the clay a little bit. There we go. Then I'll just give this another quick spray. And then use my dabber again, just to cover that area up, so you don't even notice it's there. It's just going to give you a very light blend of all of those alcohol inks. Then you can either just sit and watch it dry, or you can use a heat gun on the lowest possible setting so it doesn't dry it. You can also use a hair dryer, and we'll just dry it. Completely dry. So if I touch it, I shouldn't have any come away on my hands. There's a little sticky spot there, so I'm just wiping that off. But there, you shouldn't have anything coming off on your hands. Okay, now we're going to be working with our little bird. You're going to want some black Stays On ink. Open that up. I'm going to give this a good ink. Don't press too hard, because you don't want to have stuff going down into the recesses. And then we want to position this somewhat in the middle, and then just press firmly and lift. And we'll have a cute little bird there. And we're going to cut that out into a round. Okay, now we have everything for our project. So I suggest going and packing away things, because I'm sure by now things are lying all over your desk, as they are for me. This tile is where I keep everything nice and clean. So I'm going to go pack everything away. It will give everything a chance to dry and just basically be ready for us to use. Okay, so everything is cleaned up. Now we need to just prep one of our veneers quickly. And that is going to be this one, because the ink on top of here is very easy to remove. Like if you put a piece of paper on top of it, this is what would happen. You would end up with the ink actually being drawn out of the clay. So it's basically just sitting on top of the clay. So what we want to do is we want to take a piece of very thin translucent, and I've rolled this out on the thinnest setting of my pasta machine. I'm just going to lay that over the top of this. And this is a very delicate process. Just actually, instead of smoothing it, I'm actually tapping it. And I'm tapping down the middle like so. Stop, and then I'm tapping out towards the edges. This way I will be pushing air bubbles out. So I want to be super duper careful here. Okay, there we go. And then when you've done that and you've got most of the air bubbles out, start pressing a little bit harder to get that to bond to the clay. And now we might not get a crisp image with this because the ink might run around a little bit. That's fine, it will give a really nice effect still. Now I'm just going to grab a piece of printing paper and I'm actually going to burnish. Keep the printing paper in one place though, because you don't want to have it running around your piece because that will distort things. And this is going to flatten out that texture as well. And the ink is behaving itself pretty well. It's not moving around, which is great. Now just trim away your excess translucent and put that back with the translucent pile. You still want to be very careful with this. And we don't have to do this with any of the others because I don't plan to sand this. I've just put this on because we're going to be playing around with it a bit, and so if we touched this or if we burnished it, which we are going to do later, the ink will get absorbed. So I might just burnish this a little bit more just to get it flat because I can still feel a little bit of texture in there. So I'm just going to use my roller to do that. And I'm still holding it while I'm doing this. There we go. And that should have smoothed out. Yeah, that's much better. Alright, so now we are ready to move on to assembling our piece. So, what you want to do when you're assembling your piece is you want all of your veneers to be the same thickness, just about. They don't have to be exactly the same thickness, but the closer they are, the better. So I've just sliced a piece off there because I want to see how thick it is in comparison to this one. They're close enough. And then bring over our Silkscreen. That one is also close enough. This one's a little bit taller than these ones, but not enough for me to justify putting it through the pasta machine. So now what we're going to do is we're going to slice these into strips. So we'll start with this one and just trim the top and the bottom and the sides because we don't want any excess. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to have tapered pieces. I'm not going to have them going straight, that is completely up to you, and you can taper them as much as you want. So you can see I've got some very thin tapers, I've got some more thick tapers, and just play around with it. Now I'm just going to leave this off to the side because I shouldn't need any more. And I'll repeat this with my other two veneers. Leave the little bird one for the moment because that's going to be a separate piece. Okay, so now we've got all of those chopped up. There's one more thing we need to do, and that is to bring over a piece of black polymer clay that has been rolled out on the same thickness as your veneers, which is about 2 millimeters thick for me. And this is because we're going to be using this as a almost like a border to break up the veneers. But we do want it to be nice and smooth, so just take a piece of plain printing paper and give it a quick burnish. And this is just going to make it nice and smooth. So you can see there that it's smoothing that out. Okay. Then trim away any parts that look like they need trimming. There. And we want to clean up the top and the bottom and the sides. Okay, and we want to be cutting really thin pieces. And now your blade might stick to it at first, so if it does and the clay lifts up, you can just burnish it down a little bit more. because you want it nice and stuck to that tile. The more stuck it is, the less your blade's going to stick to it. Okay, so let's give this another try. I just need to trim up that edge. Okay, and we want really thin pieces. And then the trick that I use generally is I cut and then I pull my blade in either this direction or this direction. And generally that releases the clay from it. Instead of just going straight up. And that generally helps quite a bit. Okay, and I should have enough to start with. Yep, and I'll just pop this off the side over here. And we're ready to start assembling. So we will start with our sky veneer. So let me just bring up all of those. And then you're going to want one of those black pieces. Let me just grab one of those. And you want to push it right up against your veneer as best you can, and you can use your blade to help with this. Use your blade to just press it up against that. And now don't worry about these edges, we're not going to be using those, so if they're a little unneat, that's fine. Okay, and I'm going to bring over my leaf, and now what you want to try and do is, if the thick side of the last veneer is on this side, you want to be putting the thick side of your next veneer on the opposite. Okay, then pop that in and just gently press. Okay, then you're going to want another black. I brush that along the edge. And then again, I bring over my blade to assist with that. And then lastly, we are going to move on to our wood. And then we will repeat over and over again to create our veneers. Our veneer that we're going to cut our piece out of. And each time just brush this up against it. And now what I'm going to do is, getting these straight lines is quite hard. You can do it like that, and I think what I'm probably going to do is, when I've assembled this veneer, I'm going to wiggle it around so that it has a really organic-ish look to it. So if you don't get this perfectly straight, that will be fine. And it will actually look really nice because we are going for a somewhat organic effect here. Not too organic, but doing that will be quite fun. So try and get it as straight as you can in the beginning, but don't worry if it doesn't look perfect. And here is how it looks. So it looks absolutely stunning, at least in my opinion. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to grab a piece of plain printing paper, and now the next step is very important. Everything is basically going somewhat perpendicular. Oh, not perpendicular, sorry, parallel. They're going somewhat parallel. Of course not perfect, but they're not going up and down and to the side and things like that. So when you're burnishing, you want to go roughly in the same direction as what you're doing. You don't want to be going against the grain. So that's what I'm going to be doing when I burnish this. I'm going to be going roughly with the grain. The grain's not perfectly straight, but it's most definitely not going like that. So that's what you want to do when you're burnishing, because if you go up and down against the grain, you're going to be really distorting those lines. And maybe that's something you want. If you do want that, then go ahead and do it. I'm not telling you that it is wrong. But for what I want today, I want to try and keep these lines as straight as possible. And if they come out straight enough, then we will keep them straight. If not, we can always just distort it and make it look like that's what we wanted it to look like. But I would prefer if I could keep them straight, so I'm going to be going with the grain. Okay, and let's see how that looks. And that's almost completely flat. There are some areas that are not, and it might surprise you, but this looks like it's just completely sitting completely in the wrong direction, in the wrong level, but it's actually almost flat here, and that's what's going to create a really interesting effect when the translucent is baked, because it's going to look like it is a level down from the others, but in actuality it's on the same level, which is really quite an interesting thing to see. Okay, so I'm just going to continue burnishing quite thoroughly, and this is why I wanted to put that sheet of translucent over the leaf. First off, because it is going to protect the mixed media, because if we were doing this right now, you would end up soaking it all up and you would get a very lightly stained clay. Whereas what we're doing now, it won't affect it. And also it really adds an interesting depth to the piece. So it's an extra thing. Okay, so this is just about flat. I'm going to spend a few more minutes making sure that I get it as flat as possible. Because I want to just put a layer of Renaissance wax on there. I don't want to worry about having to sand or anything like that. So I want it to be completely flat. And then we're going to be taking a pendant out of it. And we're not going to be going straight. That's never really a good idea because it just brings out the fact that those lines are not perfectly straight. We're going to be going at it from an angle, which will look really nice. Okay, and there we are, it's completely flat. Now trim away these edges, you really don't want those there. And this is what you're left with. And this would make a really beautiful bracelet. You could make earrings, you could have little circles. Thing is though, I haven't made the lines small enough for that. I've made it so that I can cut out this beautiful pendant. So choose the spot that you like the best, and choose the angle that you like the best as well. I really want it to be going at quite a sharp angle. And I think I like that angle right there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring over a piece of cling wrap so that we have gentle domed edges. Okay, and just before we do that, we want to pick this up because it's pretty well stuck to the tile, and we want to add a backing because you generally only want to cut out your pendant once because it just makes the backing nicer. So let's see. Okay, and I've got a piece of black here. You don't need anything too special. Just pop that down like so. Bring over your veneer. Smooth that down. Okay, and now we're going to be working on a piece of paper because due to the cling wrap, I call it cling wrap, I'm pretty sure some people call it glad wrap, whatever you tend to call it, because we're going to be working with that, the cutter is not going to stick at all, so I'm going to be working on a piece of paper so that my backing is nice and smooth. So, usually I won't do that if I'm just cutting directly with the cutter because the cutter, due to the paper being non-stick, the clay will stick in the cutter. But it won't now, so I'm going to just burnish this down onto the back, which will give my back of my piece a really nice smooth finish, which is nice. Okay, and let's see, I want this to be pointing straight, and yeah, I said I wanted it sitting that way, right there. Then bring over your cling wrap. And just put it on the clay in such a way that it's going to be nice and smooth, because you can get little wrinkles. Okay, and then I'm going to stand up to do this, and I'm going to press. So I need to take you off camera for a second. Okay, and I press down nice and hard on there. Go around the edges and make sure that you have pressed through as best you can. And then lift that out. And I'm going to lift the cling wrap up. And it might stick to the cling wrap, depending on how well you've cut through. There we are. I was able to lift it. Alright. Now just want to get this out of the way. Because even with the cling wrap, this cut really well, which is great. And now we want to just gently smooth this again, because the cling wrap will have created just a few little ripply bits on here. So we do want to smooth it. And you might have little bits of excess cling wrap. So just go around and make sure that it is nice and clean. And I'll even take a little bit of paper and just give it a very gentle burnish, not too hard, just a very smooth, gentle burnish. Should smooth everything out. Okay, and that is our first piece, and I'm just going to grab this, and I don't want to cut again if it's not in the right shape, because I just want to get rid of these little bits that are left. Just go with your blade and gently trim it. And I'm actually going to be baking this directly on this piece of paper. I'm not going to lift it up, because handling it will give it fingerprints, and it's got really nice backing at the moment, so why not just bake it straight on this. Just gently using the paper to turn more than I am moving my blade actually. And then just blow to get rid of them. And if you trim them away, when you lift this off the paper later, you will be able to get rid of them anyway, even if there are some left over. Okay, and here is how that looks. It looks really nice. And I'm not sure if we even need this. I'm going to cut it out and do it quickly, but we might actually not need it. So I'm going to be making a backing for this quickly as well. Just pop that on and smooth it. Bring this over, and I'm just going to burnish this onto here as well. Okay. Then I'm going to take my cutter of choice, which I do believe is this one. No, it's one size down. And I want to position it just right. And just before we put the cutter on, I want to just grab some cling wrap again. Just getting that down as smooth as I can, at least around where I want to cut it. I'm just going to position it there and cut. Also going to give it a little twist as well. We've still got the cling wrap on there. There's our little birdie. And that's really cute actually. And just before I do anything to it, I'm just going to give it a quick spin to clean up those edges. And now we very, very gently to get this cling wrap off. Just going in with the blade, very carefully, lifting that up. Sorry, I have to concentrate when I'm doing this, so I'm not talking all that much. There we are. And there's our cute little bird. I'll just smooth out that spot where we had that. Now I'm just going to pick this up off our tile, not tile, paper. There we go. And just smooth those edges off. And I want to see how it looks. Because I think it looks cute, but I'm not sure if that goes. What do you think? I might sit and debate on it because I do have another idea for this top part over here, but I did think the bird was going to look quite cute, but I'm not sure if it ties in correctly. Okay, so after a little bit of thinking and playing around with this and thinking again what I would like to do with it, I think what would be the best thing to do is actually to put a little brass bead over here when we assemble it as a pendant, and I think that would work pretty well. I don't think it actually needs something at the top here. So here are a few ideas that I played with. Didn't really like that. I played with this and I know it's not completely finished, but it's really too similar and it makes the pendant look rather big. And here's some other little bits and pieces that I was just playing around with, and none of them really clicked very well. So I think after putting a little brass bead there, that is what looks the best for me, and it means that we'll be able to put quite a nice attachment to the cord and things like that. So I am probably going to stick with that. And also what I want to do is I just want to have a look at this, and if you wanted to dome it you can, but I think it looks nice flat the way it is. So we're going to pop that in the oven for a full hour at Primo's recommended temperature, and then the back will basically be finished. The sides don't really need to be done either. You can do them if you want, but I don't think they need to be done. And basically we'll just do a little bit of drilling, some sealing, and then we'll be able to assemble it. Okay, and here it is. Now something I did forget to mention was that this will, the alcohol ink will fade when it goes into the oven, but otherwise you can see that it looks really nice. So I've actually decided against just leaving it like this, and I think putting some resin on here might actually make it look really nice. The back is lovely and matte, so we're going to leave that, and the sides are nice and neat too, and that is why you want to trim them beforehand. So just go along the sides and just get rid of any little bits that might be there still. Like there's that one little ridge there, and just run your hand along it. And you can sand if you want, but it's not really necessary. Okay, and we're going to put some of Lisa Pavelka's Magic Gloss on here. And you can leave it the way it is, you can put some matte varnish on it, completely up to you. But I think some resin will be quite nice, and it will bring out the colours again as well. Won't bring them back to their original form, but it will definitely darken up that black, bring out the sparkle in the paint, clear up that translucent a bit. And just in general, resin does a really good job of highlighting all the good things and almost erasing all the bad things. Okay, just a little bubble there, so just pick that up and get it moving. Now Magic Gloss is really good because we do have a slight dome on this, but it won't run off the edges because it has a very strong doming capacity, and so it doesn't tend to run off the edges as easily as some of the other resins that I have used. So just bring this around. Make sure you get to all the edges, and you are going to see that it does start to pull away from the edges. When it does that, it means that you need to add more resin. Don't go and add a whole ton of resin. Add a little bit at a time. Let it rest a moment. Let the air bubbles rise, and if it pulls away again, add some more resin. You can work with this basically as long as you want. To cure it, you need to put it in a UV lamp. So you can make it cure as quickly or as slowly as you want. If you want to have a long working time, just don't put it anywhere near sunlight or a UV light. If you want it to cure quickly, just pop it in the UV light, and it's generally completely cured within half an hour. It's like really strong to the touch within half an hour. Okay, and you can see how that looks. And I'm just going to add a little bit more resin, and I like to not add it all in one spot. I like to just go around and add some more. Let's see if I can scoop that little bubble out. And there's one little bubble here. Let's see if I can get out. You can also try and pop it if it's stubborn. You could also use a torch if you want to, but I'm a little bit scared of those things because I have nearly set things on fire with them, so I don't tend to like using torches in and around my work, just because the last thing I need is to set things on fire. And you'll hear the oven ticking away in the background. I do apologise for that, but I do have some cute little earrings in the oven at the moment, so I'll show you how they look when they come out. Okay, and that is how that is going to look, and we will drill a hole once we are finished with the resin. Putting a hole in before the resin means that the resin often sinks down into that hole, and it just creates a whole nother problem for you to work with. So generally it's better to wait to drill your holes until you have put your varnish of choice on. Okay, and now I'm just going to go pop that into the UV lamp for about half an hour, and by then those pieces should have come out of the oven, and I can show you how they look. Okay, and here it is out of the UV lamp, and I let that cure for a good half an hour, so now it is firm to the touch, and now we are going to be ready to start drilling our piece. As for the little earring pieces, they are in the UV lamp as well with a coat of resin as well, so they'll be out in a little while. So now grab a drill of your choice. I'm using this pin drill, and I'm actually going to go at it from the back side, because with all these patterns I find it's hard to actually find the middle, because your eye is led to go to the middle of the pattern. Like, I'd want to go over there, that's where I think the middle is, but it's probably more over here, so I tend to like to go from the back with designs like this so that I can properly see where the middle of the piece is. Okay, let's start drilling. And then you should see it start to come through the other side. There we are. So you can see there's a little mark right over there. Hopefully you can pick that up. Now, after it comes through the clay and starts to drill through the resin, you want to go through the other side, because otherwise it can actually start to lift up, oops, the resin. So I'm very gently going to hover over that mark, and I'm going to start drilling. The resin is so smooth that my drill does not want to get a firm hold, so you've got to press quite hard to get it started. Once you get it started, it should go through pretty quickly. There we are. There we are. Now just drill through a few times just to make sure that I have a nice clean hole. Okay, just go through a few times. There. Okay, so now we're ready to start assembling. Now I have these two beads that I think go quite nicely. I have this cute little wooden rondelle and this brass space bead, and they're going to go together like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to be using head pins for this, and let me just bring one over. And now I'm going to just be putting a jump ring through here, so just pop that off to the side. We don't need to worry about that just yet. We want to be worrying about creating our little assembly. So here we are. So first what I want you to do is I want you to make the smallest loop you can. As small as you can. Like so. Okay. And then I'm going to trim off the top. Okay. And that's going to fit through there very easily, so it's going to sit like that with our piece. So we've got that ready. Now you need a jump ring. So I'm just quickly going to make one. Or actually, I'm just going to go get one quickly. Here we are. Just open that up. And these should be big enough. If they're not, I'll have to get a larger jump ring. Let's see. Are they big enough to go through? No, I'm going to have to get a bigger jump ring for them. Okay, so here's my jump ring. That should fit through. There we are. Then grab your eye pin and link that up. And then you just want to take that and loop it so that the join link is inside your piece. Then grab this, slide that on, and we'll see if that sits right. Okay, and I think what I want here is I actually want two jump rings. It looks better when you have two. So all we need to do is just take our drill and go through. You don't even need to make the hole that much bigger. Just go through a few times and press along the sides, almost like you're sawing. You can get a bigger drill if you want, but that generally does the trick. Of making it just big enough to fit a little bit more in. There we go. Okay. So let me try that again. One. And hopefully, does it fit? Just want to make this a little bit wider. Okay, so I'm just going to fiddle with this until I do have it large enough to fit two jump rings. Here we are. Now we're going to thread on our piece. Like so. And that will fit quite nicely. And I'm just going to bend where our loop needs to go, and then I'll just take those off because it's easier then. Just take this and make a loop. Just snip. And close. Okay, and then just get it so that those loops are together so it's nice and straight. And then we're going to thread these on. You can hear the birds outside today. Okay, and that's what I want. And I'm just going to bring over a jump ring very quickly and thread it through that loop so it doesn't fall off. Like so. And another jump ring. And I might actually do a few jump rings because this is where we're going to thread on our cord, so I might go with 3. And then just point those end bits down, like so. And this one looks a little wonky. So I'm just going to add as many jump rings as I can, and I'm going to make sure that they're nice and tidy as well. That one looks a little bit wonky. And then we can move on to popping in our cord. Okay, so I've got 3 nicely assembled onto here. And I also have a ready-made rubber cord that you just simply string it on. If you're looking for where to buy the rubber cord, I do have it on my Etsy shop, Jessama Design. And there we are. So let's see, how's that look? Right, so if you hold it up like that, these are going to sit right up against the jump rings. If you bring it down, they're going to, the way you wear it, it's going to be sitting nice and flush up against there. So, I do hope that that was helpful to you. I did enjoy making this. I am going to start assembling the earrings in just a moment, and I'll show you how they look when I am done. Okay, and here are the earrings. There are a few more pairs, but I haven't got around to finishing them yet. So these are the earrings and the pendant to go with them. So, I do hope that you enjoyed that tutorial. I certainly did. It was quite fun. It was also really easy. The veneers that I showed are very easy as well. You can take this technique that I've shown you today, or even the design as well, and make your own using different veneers if you want. Play around with it. You can use really vibrant veneers if you're using some canes, so you could use canes on your veneers instead of mixed media as well. You could try doing this with stone as well, faux stone. There's lots of things that you could do with it, so play around with it and have some fun. And if you would like more in-depth tutorials every single month, please do consider checking out my Patreon membership. For $15 a month you have access to about 200 tutorials backlog and 3 tutorials every single month. 3 new ones, including a 20% discount on my Etsy shop as well, where I sell a whole bunch of tools. So if you could check that out, that would be really nice, because it is what keeps this channel going, as I post a video every single week on this channel, and I'm looking into posting more than 1 video a week in the near future, so please do consider becoming a patron, as that is very helpful to me. And as always, I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.